Knees and toes.
The shoulders have to do with anything?
Because of what you did to my bold prediction. Yes, I'm taking this too far, but I don't care. We're
The
going.
noise is great for those who are audio only.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. We back. It is Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Episode 439. It's the first Wednesday episode of our off-season coverage. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Today's episode is going to feature, depending on how much time we have, a mixture, and then anything we don't cover in this episode will be pushed to next episode because it's the off season, so we can go at our own snail's pace. We're going to go over the series with the Buffalo Sabres that sadly ended on Monday night. Games 4, 5, and 6, and 7 all took place since the last time we spoke. We went to Tully's multiple times and brought us good fortune and then not good fortune. So we'll be going over that series. Phil's got a question for me. We'll go over the NLL finals. We'll go over our Bandits coverage of this season in review, not the actual Bandits like end of the awards yet. That's coming up in a few weeks. But our Bandits coverage on our fifth year of covering the team. And then if we have time, we'll start doing our Buffalo Sabres nominees for our BSC award show, the 5th annual award show. But again, if we run out of time covering the top 3 things, because the Sabres series and the NLL finals are more pressing, we will push the nominees to next week, and knowing me and Phil, that'll probably happen. But as we do on every Wednesday episode in our off season, we like to tell you all what we did this last week since we last spoke. So Phil, I'll let you take this away first. I'll go first next week. You take this one.
Yeah, not too much. Did some delayed Mother's Day antiquing with Ashley's mom last weekend and her dad. They came up from Rochester, so we did that on a very rainy, stormy day. It was kind of fun, though, having the kind of not so good weather for antiquing. I feel like it helped, because then you're indoors and going through everything slowly, and there were less people, which is helpful. But the big thing last weekend was mowing the lawn for the first couple times, getting that out of the way. Not the first time, but I think it might have been second or third. Pulling a lot of weeds, and then gardening was the big one this last weekend with the Memorial Day sales kicking off already. We got some soil, and we got a lot of plants from her mom. So we were out there putting those in the ground super early, because once it gets hot, we hide away in the inside the house. We don't have the back patio area set up yet where we normally have our giant umbrella for some shade. There is no shade anywhere on my property other than if we put an umbrella up. So once it gets hot out, we run away very quickly into the indoors. We got some gardening in, so that was nice.
We also went to Tully's twice.
Yes.
First one was for Game 5? Yeah, Game 5.
Yes. 6.
No, Game 4. No, Game 5. Yeah, it was Game 5. 3-2. No, Game 4. It was Game 4. God. It was Game 4. They all blend together. The 3-2 victory, you were there to witness me squealing a bit when it was 3-2, and it was close.
A lot of yelping.
Yeah, a lot of yelping. We did the first 3 periods at Tully's this time, and then Phil and I were getting very aggravated at an old woman that clearly has never watched a sporting event in her entire life, and then she was tuning into a TV that was 6 seconds ahead. Yes, full 6 seconds ahead. So
the only TV
in the whole place that was
6 seconds ahead. She had to sit in front of.
And she spoiled multiple goals for us, and she didn't take the clue when I yelled, "Who could have seen that coming?" So we did that. I had a couple soccer games, and then Thursday morning after the one soccer game, I'm like, man, my foot really hurts. Like, I don't remember doing anything in soccer, though. I didn't have to make any, like, big-time saves or anything like that. It was a normal soccer game. Like, this really hurts. Maybe I just stepped weird. And then Friday morning happened. I'm like, oh, it hurts even worse today. That's weird. So I was like, okay, I got a soccer game tonight. I'll just see how it feels afterwards. Then Saturday morning hits. I'm like, I can't really walk. So went to the Excelsior. They have plenty of. Sorry, I shouldn't. Schmelchier, because they're not sponsoring the show. Got a couple X-rays. They're like, nothing's broken. I was like, good. They don't have to put me in a boot, but apparently I have, and I'm probably gonna butcher this because I not good with words. Plantar fasciitis.
I knew that's
my
what
one
you were going to
foot.
say, just
Yeah,
based on a
yeah,
foot injury, and it's hard to say.
yeah. It hurts. They pretty much said if there's any nurses out there that can correct them and give me a speedier recovery, uh, you can't really make it worse, but not staying off of it would delay the healing time. It's nice out. I have a lot of acreage. I don't have the luxury of being off my feet. If this would have happened months ago, like when it's snowing out, that's fine. But since
Right.
it's nice out and I have so much crap to do outside, can't stay off my foot. So it's probably going to be a whole summer thing where it just hurts to walk around. I got a nice little brace that I have to put on it, and it gets real sweaty. And I have to wear high socks now because you were showing me your farmer's tan before we started recording. That leg farmer's tan is going to look real weird. So I had that done. That was fun. I went from my head to my wrist, now my foot, my knees are shot, my back hurts every day. I'm an old man that I'm not even all that old yet. So we had that, and then last couple weeks, we've been working on a garden because everybody knows the story about my greenhouse that blew away. Had to go chase it down in the backfield, and then took care of that. Well, it's always going to be a wind tunnel over here, so we're doing an actual garden. So dug some posts or dug some holes, put some posts in. Those things aren't going anywhere. Putting up the chicken wire, the other supports. Dug out. It's a 24 by 16 area now. So maybe if I remember, I'll post pictures. Had to dig out all the grass in it. Just laid down the actual framing for the gardening. And now coming up this week, ordering a bunch of dirt, filling it back in. And then my mom, who works at a local, again, not a sponsor, a local farmers type of thing. Got me a ton of plants. I'm going crazy with some of the things I'm going to grow. I got potatoes, I got carrots, just weird stuff that I've never grown before. So we're going to see. So kind of like you, started up the garden, mowed a bunch. This grass just never stops. And yeah, that was my week. So as the summer picks up, we're probably going to have more and more activities. But that is our first week in review. If you don't like it, that's why we put this time breakdowns in the description of the show. We'll start with the Buffalo Sabres. 4 games took place since we last spoke. Oh, and a reminder, I'm up in my office. There's no AC in this house. I had to turn off my AC fan, so if I start sweating, that's why. It's also 85, 86 something degrees out the last 2 days. Sabres. They split the last 2 games. They went 2-2 since we last spoke, but they lose in overtime in Game 7, 3-2 on an absolute heartbreaking defeat. I don't know if you were like me, where once we came home from Tully's, we were watching the game. I sat on my couch and stared at my wall for a good 15, 20 minutes after the game ended. And then I was like, oh no, I got to put in the AC unit in our bedroom, otherwise I won't be able to sleep at night. I guess it's just another heartbreaking defeat for the Buffalo sports fans. Like, thank God we have the Buffalo Bandits, because if we didn't, it would just be utter heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. Like, close to what, 60 years? No, sorry, 55 seasons each. So 110 seasons total between the Bills and the Sabres of just finding new ways to tear out their heart. And I understand, I'm very appreciative and very happy of where the Sabres season went, because we went from possibly excluding them. Like, I buried them in November, and then December 9th hit and they went on that giant run. So I'm very appreciative of how the season was, because we hadn't had it. Like, we went to different bars to watch this team. We went to Tully's multiple times to watch this, Schmelly's. They finished with a much better record, and I think they finished further than anybody thought. I think I definitely said that if they don't get out of the first round, it's a failure. They had plenty of opportunities to get out of this round, and they just fell short. But as negative as I kind of want to be because of how many chances they had, and at the end of the day, at the end of Game 7, like, I'm sitting there going, like, I don't think the better team won, which stinks to say, because I feel like Buffalo is finally hitting their stretch. Like like the game 6 where they went to Montreal and they were down 3-1 after Lyon gives up chintzy goals. Like they found him a save magically to make it so he had one save, but then they battled back and scored what, 7 straight to make it an 8-3 victory. I'm like, this team is finally figuring out their power plays actually performing.
Yeah.
And then they go down 2-0 quick in that game. But it felt like they were still in it. Like the chances were there. The whole second period was like, okay, they got to find a chance. And then the third period, and yeah, everybody can talk about that goal, not goal, that didn't really get called, and whatever. I have opinions on that, but it just stinks sitting here right now at 7:36 on Tuesday the 19th going, I don't think the better team won, but that's what it is with game 7 of just one shot can completely end your season, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I feel like throughout the series, I was mixed on who the better team was. And like you said, I feel like it took Buffalo all of those games to
Yeah.
finally hit their stride. And I do think, like, to me, game 6 was their best game, and not because of the score necessarily, but because they were down 3-1 in an elimination game on the road and easily could have just packed it in and called it game and said, okay, we're not the best, especially coming off a game where you just lost 6-3. Like they easily could have just been like, all right, like we're not that team. We have next year, whatever, it is what it is. But they found a way to fight back in that game, like you said, score 7 straight and win game 6. And I think I was a little bit nervous going into game 7 because every time one team looks really good, it seems like the other team then has the next game where they look really good. And this game, I thought Montreal came out very quick and Buffalo came out very slow and put themselves in that early hole. But after that, in game 7, I thought they were the better team throughout the rest of the game. And I feel like Montreal kept trying to claw back and find a way to dominate and assert themselves, and they just couldn't find a way. And Buffalo just continued to pressure and pressure and pressure. And the amount of times they almost scored made it feel like it just wasn't going to be their game. Like the chances they had, the bounces they just could not quite get, that just wouldn't bounce quite in the right way. Like fighting for those 2 goals they even were able to get, it just felt like it wasn't going to be their night. And I mean, we watched when we watched Zucker decide to pass it when he had a wide
Yeah.
open net, and when Thompson did the toe drag and could have scored, but then he loses the puck. Like it was just all those little things. You're like, this just it doesn't feel good. And like the whole time, even in overtime, I was still hoping. Obviously, there was like, okay, just fall. Like one just needs to fall in, but it seemed like it just wasn't going to happen for them in that game. No matter what they did, no matter how many pucks they chucked at the net, no matter how many random bounces they were able to get, they just weren't able to get that bounce or that correct play. And even like you said, the no goal or goal, like that didn't go their way. Like that could have been the one thing to push them over in this game, but that also didn't go their way. It just seemed like everything was kind of, no matter how well they played, it seemed like everything was kind of stacked against them in that game 7. I think it's going to hurt a lot more to me if Montreal escapes Carolina. And if I don't see Montreal winning it all, but if Montreal somehow wins it all, I feel like it'll be that much more painful because you were 1 goal away from being that team. And I think Buffalo is arguably at least on par with, if not better than, Montreal. So if they're able to beat Carolina, then I'll feel like, okay, well, Buffalo could have been beaten Carolina. If they're able to somehow win the Stanley Cup, which I don't see, then you'd be like, okay, well, then Buffalo possibly could have won the Stanley Cup. And then once those questions go in your mind, that's when I think it'll hurt a little bit more. Um, but like you said, it's a very weird season because it's one of those seasons you want them to keep going. And obviously you don't want it to be over, but you also have to look at where they were and the fact that they were on to their 15th straight year of not making playoffs, then went on this magical run. And like we said originally, like my first goal was to win 1 game in the playoffs, just don't get swept. And then realizing how bad Boston was, I was like, yeah, win the series. You are the better team. Go figure it out. And then this series just kept dragging on. Like that game 6 was nerve wracking, but then they took it and you're like, okay, well, maybe you can escape this series. And I think, like you said, as you've said throughout the show, that as they progress, the needle moved of where you expect them to be and what the expectations were. And I think they were just too streaky in this Montreal series. Like they had games where they were completely just like Montreal just took it to them in certain games where it just looked horrible. And like, what is this team on the ice? And then there's other games where they looked clearly like the better team. Okay, that's like, why are we not doing this every game? Not saying like, and that was, I think, the weird thing about this series was that it was so one way or the other. Like either one team dominated or the other team dominated. Didn't like this last game was one of the more equal games. And even though I think Buffalo outplayed Montreal quite a bit, but Montreal was hanging in there. Like neither team really had that big lead or took off in any facet. And I think this game you can kind of equate to game 4 where Buffalo realistically didn't deserve to win game 4 and were extremely horrifying watching that game and watching them hold on for dear life as that clock just slowly ticked away. Like, my goodness, Montreal's just taking it to you and you're just trying to clear the zone as many times as you can. And I think in this game, Montreal did the exact same thing, but they were able to get that final last minute, not great goal, but UPL played out of his mind, so I can't blame him.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason I'm more frustrated was because it, like I already mentioned, I don't think the better team won, and even though they
Do
were
you think
having
that for
those,
the whole series or just that game?
I think for the whole series, and the reason is
curious.
because when you're looking at it, yeah, Montreal is a very good team. I'm not denying that whatsoever. They have a ton of good players over there. But when you look at what you did to that top line of Montreal, like Caulfield, Suzuki, and Shikalski, I can never pronounce his last name. I apologize. They didn't really kill you on 5-on-5. Like, it was the power play. It was all self-inflicted wounds that Buffalo did to themselves. Like, the games where they got blown out, it's not because of anything Montreal did. It's because of where Buffalo put themselves. The defense was awful in, what was it, game 2 and game 3. Lyon bailed them out in game 3. It was all self-inflicted wounds. Like, I'm not trying to discredit, I'm not trying to tell a different story and paint hypothetical history here. But I feel like Buffalo was just the better team, and they hurt themselves in so many ways. Like, Tuck went through the entire series without a single point, and they scored 8 goals in Game 6. Like, that can't happen. They took stupid penalties. The one game in Game 5 where they won 3-2, or sorry, Game 4 where they won 3-2, they killed off 6 of 7 power plays opportunities.
Somehow.
Like, that's what I mean about it's just self-inflicted wounds. It's the goalies that are not making the saves that they're supposed to be doing. It's the defense. They're just forget how to play defense. Your top players aren't performing. I truly believe, and I understand that you need to actually go to the games and perform, but I don't feel like it's anything Montreal did to Buffalo. It's everything Buffalo did to themselves that allowed Montreal to do it. And that's what makes it so frustrating, is because you finally saw in Game 6 and Game 7 who the better team actually was, because every piece was clicking. It's just Game 7, they just weren't finishing. And you can give me all the BS that you want, because I know Paul Hamilton's been got on the radio station like 9 different times on Tuesday explaining like, they blew that whistle too early, the goal should have went in. Okay, that's one play in an over 70-minute game where they were only able to beat Dobish twice. Like,
yeah.
I get it. They blew the whistle early. Even if that happens, it's the NHL. Who knows what's going to happen in the final 9 minutes? Yeah, they've been very good at it, but being up and be able to close the games. But how many other opportunities did you have? The Zucker one where he passes it instead of shooting into the open net. Tage Thompson's drag. Tuck doing absolutely nothing again. Like, there were plenty of opportunities. They had it kept. I'm trying not to hammer Paul Hamilton over and over, but I was listening to the radio nonstop today. He kept saying that they had 90 shot attempts. How many were those on net? Like, how many times did they shoot over the net as well? Like, I remember telling you, I was like, how many Zhitniks do they have on this team right now? Because they kept missing it. So you can give me all the stuff about you want about, that goal should have counted and blah, 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 blah. How many other missed opportunities did they not have, and going down 2-0 that early on mistakes that they cost themselves in that game, where I'm not going to listen to the narratives of the refs blew this one at all. Buffalo had plenty of opportunities. They went 2-5 at home in both those series. You can't go 2-5 and expect to go far in the playoffs. So again, it's a weird situation where I'm so appreciative of how this season went, but it left a taste in my mouth of things that I don't think they were done yet. And that's
Yeah.
what makes this so frustrating. That's why I said off the top, like, one shot just ended their season, and it really, really stinks.
Yeah, they definitely could have won that game. I think even though there were a lot of shots on net and a lot of shot attempts, like a lot of them just didn't seem all that high danger. Like I
Yeah.
know the NHL has that stat. I don't know if it's really that findable is not a word. But it like if you can look at the high danger chances versus simply just shots on net, like Montreal had how many high danger
Yeah.
chances with those breakaways, with how many big saves UPL had to come up with in their
He
20
played great.
something saves versus Buffalo just throwing everything at the net from all angles and just trying to get as much on as they can. And I get that in some situations that's exactly what you want to do and that'll work, but you also need a good looking shot every once in a while. Like the amount of times Montreal was able to find a guy wide open in the middle of the net with nobody around him because of just how fast their offense moves and what they were able to do. Whereas Buffalo, I feel like Montreal was clogging the middle extremely well against Buffalo, and Buffalo didn't really have a good answer to break that down. They just kept everything to the outside, and then at some point would just whip it toward the net and hope for a good rebound. And again, that's not a terrible system to go with, but you needed those 2-on-1s that you saw Zucker and Hellenis get in the game before. Like you needed those breakout situations, 3-on-2s to kind of fall into place. And even when they had those opportunities in the third period, like the guy would miss the pass or something would go awry.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like it's right there, but they just weren't executing it well enough to beat Dobish and beat Montreal in that game. Like they had the opportunities, but they just weren't in that game. They didn't play well enough. I don't want to say Montreal was the better team because I don't think they were, but Buffalo just didn't do what they needed to do to finish that game before it even got to overtime.
So I think to wrap this up, I think it's safe to say hockey is officially back in Buffalo. I don't want to officially say like this team's going to be around for like years to come because we just went through 14 years of no playoffs. You can't just guarantee that just because of the success that they had this year that they can be back next year. I'm hoping. I feel like they will be, but I'm not guaranteeing it. But when you're looking at this team now, we're kind of slowly flipping the page here. And I think the number one thing right now is Lindy Ruff coming back. And there's been whispers in the wind already of it's his job if he wants to come back. And I'm kind of jumping on what everybody else said. It did not seem his press conference was a goodbye or this is the end. It sounded like a guy who was very excited for the future. So I believe, and there's already been whispers in the next couple weeks, you're probably going to see a Lindy Ruff extension. I think number one thing, and I'm hoping that this brief little series here doesn't influence anybody else's decision, Seth Appert needs to be driven to the airport, put on a plane, and never come back to Buffalo. He should not have lasted this entire season. I think the only reason he did was because the team was being successful. That power play has got awful. Like, why it took them so long to put Josh Stone and Zach Benson on it, I will never understand. Why it took them so long to get Alex Tuck off of it, who was doing nothing, I'll never understand. But he's in charge of the power play. The power play has been bad for very, very long, ever since he came along. This is skilled players. Like, this is a very good 5-on-5 team. When you have the man advantage, that needs to be capitalized. And yeah, they did a bit in this series, but Phil, I do not want this little bit of a series and them to put it in their head that Seth Appert is excused for all the years of past grievances that we have.
Look at how scared we were every time Montreal got a power play.
Yes.
Like it was
Yep.
it was horrifying with how
We
well
had
they were able to
Boston
move.
Boston was willing to put Buffalo on the power play because they
Yes.
knew where they weren't going to score.
And Montreal's power play, like every time they're just whipping the puck around. Everybody's wide open in front of the net. Everybody's open everywhere. Like it was so fast. It's so horrifying to watch as a Sabres fan. You're like, oh my gosh, get it out of the zone. They're going to score. And Buffalo's just looks like a shell of that if they can even get it into the zone to start with.
Yeah, so I think that's the number one thing if and when Lindy Ruff comes back. I think this will tie into your question here is what do they have to do? I think Tuck kind of played himself out of a contract. After that first series versus Boston, I was like, pay him whatever he wants to come back to Buffalo. And then after the Montreal one, it's like, okay, I'm good. Like, if this is what we're gonna see, if he needs a 6 to 8 year contract, I'm good. I don't need to see him anymore. There's been too many stretches in the regular season. He's been a part of a team that, yeah, they fixed it this year, but in prior years he was a leader on this team and they just weren't performing. So thank you. Goodbye. Maybe that's recency bias. I think I said it earlier, but I'm good. I'd
I
rather
think
pay Zach Benson. I'd rather pay Hellenius. I'd rather pay all these other guys. Byram when he comes up. I'd rather pay all these guys rather than pay a 30-year-old forward who disappeared in the biggest moments of Buffalo in years and years and years.
Yeah, I think a big example of what he is to this team right now, or at least in that series, was how much he dragged
Yep.
Doan down with him on that line. If that's not an example of simply like how much of an anchor he is currently, because Benson went on the top line and Thompson looked much, much
Yep.
better. Tuck went on the second line, and Doan without Benson looked horrific. And I don't think it's against Doan at all. I think he was missing his line mate and missing his best friend, and he just
That's why we said do not break that lineup.
yeah. And I don't think Doan can drive a line by himself, which is
Right.
fair. I don't think that's what you're expecting him to do. But Tuck certainly didn't elevate Doan, or they couldn't figure out any kind of chemistry to get that line and have Doan get Tuck moving. Instead, Tuck was still not very good, and he dragged Doan right down with him. So I think that's a great example of, like, I don't think he should be on the top line no matter what anymore. And I don't think he can drive his own line. So at that point, and like you said, he's on the older side of things, especially when he wants to play until he's like 38 on this next contract. Like, just move on to all the young guns you have waiting to come up. Like, just make this team young, fast, and hungry. And I like you said, thank you for your service. Thanks for getting the Sabres back to the playoffs, but it was a fun ride. Don't pay him a lot of money.
Yeah. So your question and the whole Tuck conversation kind of tied into this of way too early lines to look at next year. And I know the season just ended. What are you guys doing? But I mean, I'm like I said, it left a sour taste in my mouth because I felt this team was still they had unfinished business. So I'm excited for October, and that's been the first time in a long time
Yeah.
I've said that. So kind of looking at it right now, what their team looks like, they don't have a ton of UFAs. I mean, when you're looking at the UFAs right now, I can pull up the sheet. They got Tanner Pearson. He ain't coming back. They got a couple of forwards down in Rochester, including Josh Dunn. He ain't coming back. Alex Tuck's their biggest UFA right now, along with Beck Malenstein. I would expect Beck Malenstein back. Alex Tuck, different situation. Beck Malenstein was making 1.35. I would expect a bit of a bump, but probably still right around that $2 million. I'm good with that. Luke Shen, thank you. Drift off into retirement. Logan Stanley, somebody's going to pay him big bucks. Zach Jones and Bartholomew, it's not Bartholomew. I understand. They're both Rochester guys, depth setting, whatever. That's really it for UFAs. Now, RFAs are a different story. I mean, the rights remain with Buffalo, obviously. Michael Kesselring, Novikov, and Bellevue. Again, another Rochester guy. Those guys are RFAs. And then with the forwards, you got Peyton Krebs, you got Zach Benson, and Nadeau. That's it. That's your list of RFAs. There's not a ton of work for Jarmo to do in this offseason. So when you're looking at the lines here, I just put them together real quick. This is without, and you put the caveat, we can look at closer to free agency in the draft on who comes in. But right now, I mean, I already have too many bodies. Like, my top line right now, and what are you doing putting Norris on the top line? I still think they need to go get a top six forward. I believe that Jarmo also believes that by trying to get Robert Thomas. I think they're going to try to address the top six. But say they don't right now. This is your team going in right now. I think Zach Benson, he's going to get a long-term deal, do 8 for 8 and lock him up, and you're good for years to come. Benson, Norris, and Tage is top line right now. I went a really young second line here or I guess it's not super young. I'll get to the young in a minute. Quinn, Oslin, and Doan. That's a good second line there. Oslin had not played in this playoffs, and you saw what difference he makes when he's in the lineup. Kulik said he's good to go. He's got to get a little bit more in game shape because he's been off so much with blood clots, but there was talk that his career could be done. It does sound like he's going to be back. Kulik, McLeod, and Helenius. I mean, Helenius played his way out of the team, no doubt. That line could be absolutely scary. And when McLeod's not in the playoffs, he plays pretty stinking good. And then the fourth line, I think you kind of just run it back with Greenway, Carrick, and then you re-sign Malenstein. The extras right now are Zucker and Krebs. You're probably going to have to move one of those two guys. Like Zucker played in regular season, but he disappeared in the playoffs. So right now, that's my lineup for the forward group.
And what do you do? I know we said we're not adding a name per se, but we'll say because I do agree that they need to get some kind of dynamic top six forward. What we saw just wasn't enough. We'll say they do add someone. Are you just bumping everybody down a
That's
bit?
the issue. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really put Quinn, Doan, Kulik, Helenas, Tage, or Benson on that fourth line.
Right.
So I feel like one of those guys is probably going to be a trade. Like, is Kulik a trade piece? Is Quinn a trade piece? Like, one of those. I really like Quinn's game in the playoffs, though. Like, and we didn't get to see Kulik's game. So one of those guys is probably going to have to move because you're going to have to get a top six forward. And that's not even accounting the Tuck exit from it. Like, Oslin's not a Rochester guy anymore. Helenas isn't a Rochester guy anymore. Kulik's not. Like, they're so young, but the skill is there. But I still think they need a top six forward somewhere in this lineup. And
I feel like even that Quinn, Oslin, Doan line could use not necessarily a late veteran like Tuck or something, but a more established top six forward to kind of help drive a line like that.
Right.
Like, I think they'd be fine, but if you need something extra, I think they still need a top six dynamic forward of some type.
Yeah, so somebody's gonna have to move.
Especially with how Tage disappeared. Like,
yes.
He's still very good. I got nothing against him per se, but if you go back into the playoffs, you need somebody else you can rely on if you're missing, if Tage does that again, if Tage has some kind of disappearing act where he just can't find a way to score a goal or look good, you need somebody else that can go out there and drive and just score goals. But
so that's my forward group. My defense is super simple. Like, it's pretty much everybody under contract. You got Dahlin, Samuelson, Power, Byram. That's your top four. They're going to be playing over 20 minutes a night. Timmins and Metza, I really like that third pairing. I'm good with that. And then Kesselring's going to get an RFA. See if he can work his way back into the good graces now that he's finally healthy of Lindy Ruff, hopefully Lindy Ruff, and see if he can dispel either Connor Timmins or Zach Metza. And then you got a bunch of trade chips on the back end as well.
So this is something that, again, we pay attention. You've paid attention to hockey forever, but I pay attention closer this year because the team was good. I know third line pairings are usually sheltered minutes. Are other teams, is everybody across the league's third line just that bad that when it comes to a big playoff game, you're playing them never and you're just riding your top forward? Like, is across the NHL, even the great teams, like, is their third line defensive pairing just like benched in really important games, essentially? Like, it seems crazy that they were sheltered that much. And I get it. Like, you don't want them to make a mistake or anything. You want your big guys out there. I understand that, but it seems crazy that they were just like, yeah, Metza's just not playing in this game, even though he's active, because they want to shelter him and make sure he doesn't play. That seems wild to me that you can't find two guys that are reliable back there.
I think it's less about them trusting them because you saw Metza in some situations, even late in the third period, where he was
Timmins
still in
was horrifying at times.
Timmins did have a couple bad games, but I thought he played really well in some other ones.
Yes, I think it's very streaky.
I think it was a lot less about them not trusting them and just being god-awful, whatever you want to call it, and more about your top four are just that stinking good. Like, all season long, your top four defensemen were your go-to guys, and that was going to be the way that you led through this playoff. So to me, it was a lot more about the four in front of them and less about the Timmins Mets. I think when you saw Shen in the lineup or Logan Stanley in the lineup, that was more about sheltering them. That was more about, okay, we can't have this pair together type of thing. The Timmins and Metza one, that seemed more like we always want one of our top four guys on the ice regardless of who their partner is. So we'll split that up. So to me, it was a lot less about what they were, because I think that's a very quality third pairing. But in the playoffs, everything shrinks. Like, I was shocked when we saw in overtime they still had their fourth line out there. They were even mentioned in the broadcast, like, Buffalo's just keep tossing their fourth line out there because they trust them. Montreal wasn't doing that.
Right.
So it all comes down to, what is your driving pattern there, to me at least. But when you're looking at the goalies, this is the cluster here. They got four guys, and none of them can go down to Rochester without passing through waivers, and none of them would clear waivers. UPL, Ellis, Levi, and Lyon. I don't know what they're going to do here. Like, I don't see a world where they carry three goaltenders again next year, but I didn't see them carrying a world where they would carry three this year, and they just got lucky where a goalie would always get injured. I I don't know. I really don't. I think UPL or I don't as good as the season was with UPL and Lyon and then mixed in Ellis. I don't think you can realistically go into next season with that plan again.
No.
So
it didn't work in the playoffs, and that's what it comes down to.
when you're looking at it, it's UPL or Lyon. One of those two is going to get shipped out. And then it comes down to, do you think Colton Ellis or Devin Levi is a better guy that's going to split with the other one? And then the other one you're either going to try to trade or try to get through waivers. Like, two of these guys aren't going to be on the lineup on this team. And it could possibly be three depending on if they bring in a bigger goaltender. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't currently have a plan. It seemed like Ellis kind of jumped Levi in the pecking order here. I really don't know. I don't know Yarmo's opinion because none of these guys are his. I guess you can mix in Ellis and Lyon a bit, but he wasn't really the quote-unquote GM at that point. It was still Kevin Adams.
That's fair.
So he had a hand in picking those two. So if I was a betting man, maybe those two. But I honestly don't know. I really don't know what your goalie position is. I think that's the biggest question mark going into this offseason is what they're going to do between the pipes.
I'll say what I would do, and then I want to hear what you like. We don't know what they're going to do. I want to know who your two would be moving forward. To me, what I saw in playoffs, I love Alex Lyon and what he brings to this team, what he means to this team, and how well he played for as long as he did. But he is on the older side. This team's on the younger side. I like having him as a veteran backup on the team, so it's hard to get rid of that and what he brings to the locker room. But is he going to be part of the long-term outlook of this team? I don't think so. And that's, again, not really a shot at him, but can you go two young guys next year as your main guys? It's always going to be a little bit risky, but I don't like what I saw in the playoffs from the goalies. Lyon had to relieve UPL in the first series and then played out of his mind. But again, I know I'm hammering them, but I really just don't think Boston's a good team, especially not their offense. It just doesn't have what Montreal has. And then Montreal came and has a solid offense and can score goals on you. And then Lyon and UPL at times both fell apart in that series, and you had to keep going back and forth. And that's where I think Buffalo needs to find a true number one and a true stable goalie. And that's why I hope they don't give up on Levi. I hope they give him a shot. I'm not saying he can be that guy. I don't know if he can be, but he's never been given the opportunity to be that guy. And right now, at the same exact time, I don't know if Levi can be it. I don't know if UPL can be their guy, and I don't think Lyon can be their guy, mainly based on age at this point. I don't think you're going to have him in there as your true starting goalie moving forward. Like, I think Levi might have the highest and most consistent upside of any goalie in their system right now. UPL, to me, is just so hot and cold. He has these out of this world games where he's just incredible, and you're like, yes, like that's the goalie we need. But his bad games are so bad. It's not that they're just mildly bad. Like, okay, you let one bad one in, but you still made some good saves. That's okay, and you gave up 3 goals. That's fine. They're so bad. It's like 4, 5, 6, 7 goals, and they're all like, what? You could have saved all of those. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know. I hope they don't give up on Levi. To me, I want UPL and Levi moving forward. I love Lyon. I love what he brought to this team, and I hope he continues his NHL career, but I just don't see him as a long-term solution for this team, and I think that's where they need to start looking, and I just really hope they don't give up on Levi just yet, but realistically, they might.
So I know you want my opinion. Being completely honest, I'll try to answer it here. I really don't know what they're going to do. I don't think Lyon and UPL are the future. I don't think that they can be the goalie tandems. And quite frankly, I don't think I want either of them on this team next year. It has nothing to do with what they did in the regular season this year because I thought they were fantastic. Like, they're a big reason that they're a huge, massive reason why this team finished first in the Atlantic and won the Atlantic and was the number 1 seed on that side of the bracket. But I don't want to do that experiment again. Like, how can Lindy pull those strings again and make that work? I don't know, and I don't think it's going to happen. Ellis, He had bright points, but like I
He's
wouldn't be
scary.
heartbroken if he's just out the door. So
Yeah.
it leaves Devin Levi, and without knowing exactly what goalies are on the market right now, or what goalies are out there in free agency, even though I hate free agency because teams spend way too much money on it. Would it be crazy to say that the only goalie left standing out of these four is Devin Levi next year? I don't think that's crazy. So I would say that I think the the goalie that is probably going to take the vast majority, I shouldn't say the vast majority, 45 to 50 starts next year is not on this team. I'll put it like that. I don't think that you can go into next season with the goalie tandems that you have right now. So I would say that the goalie that's going to start 45 to 50 is somewhere out there, either going to be hitting a street free agent or is just not in the organization right now.
Yeah, I started looking up some names, but we're going to do that a different episode, so I'm not even going to get into it. Not even going to get into it.
We're hitting some rain here, so I might have to open some windows here to get some nice cross breeze in. But that concludes the Sabres here. We're almost 40 or over 40 minutes into this one. So let's dive into the NLL because there is a new champion. There was a possibility of a new champion this weekend, but it was official. Toronto Rock win the NLL championship for the first time since 2011. They won game one in an epic comeback, 13-11. Halifax led 4-3 after one, 9-5 at half, four straight by Toronto to tie it in the third. Halifax retook the lead 11-10 with 6:41 to go, but Toronto scored the final three. And then flash forward to Sunday. Toronto wins this one 12-7, capturing the win. It was 5-3 Toronto after one, 8-6 Toronto at half. Halifax would score 128 into the third, and that would be their final goal of the game. So congratulations to I am officially I shouldn't say officially. I was once known as a Toronto Rock lover, and then I kind of went away. And this team is going to be dangerous. Like they're not going away. They're just going to get even more talent coming in next year with Ty English, and they have another early draft pick next year because of Calgary's pick. Like
They're going to be good for years and years and years and years.
Nick Rose, that's the player that I'm most happy for is
Yeah.
Nick Rose because I don't understand why he gets so much hate, especially from Toronto Rock fans. Like there's still so many of them out there. You saw life without him last year and bits and pieces this year because of the injury and Matt Sawyer just didn't want to start him. I'm so happy that Nick Rose finally got a championship like that. And I'm not one of those ones that the rivalry and you hate Toronto. I've kind of gotten past that by doing this for 5 years now. I'm Toronto was a fun team to watch. Like, yeah, at times their veterans disappeared and they were driven by their rookies, but that's kind of what you want. Like you want
Yeah.
your rookies to be that next wave. The only like their defense is still super good and they were missing pieces on the back end, including Phil Mazuka. This team's not going anywhere. Like you look at the rookies: Kirst, English, Kelleher, Hukel, or Huckle. I butcher his last name all the time. That's what's in my bio. The guy that butchers last names, and then Hiltz. Like all rookies. And they still have Ty English coming in, and they still have Moran Weeks on the practice roster. Like this team is young, they're hungry, they're not going away. Like I don't. Mark Matthews is up in age, and Nick Rose is up in age, but they're going to be back next year. Like this team is under contract. That they're so good. Like Toronto is not going anywhere. They were not a 6 seed. They were one overtime goal away from being a 3 seed. I'm not even just going to say like if Buffalo was there because Buffalo didn't earn an opportunity to face Toronto. Like Toronto deserved this one. They won it fair and square. They beat multiple teams to get there. I just congratulations Toronto because it was the fastest retool in the history of the world. I had them finishing 8th, so it's not like I didn't see them in the playoffs. I just did not expect this turnaround so freaking quickly. So just hats off to all the Toronto Rock fans out there. It's I'm not saying it's a dynasty, but they're going to be a tough out for a lot of teams next year and in the future because rumor is Ty English is even better than Sam English, and Sam English just won NLL Finals MVP.
Yeah, they're a scary team. I also congratulations to Halifax. I know they didn't win, but
Yeah,
even just getting there, it's been a
I
long
buried
time
him.
coming for
I was
that
wrong.
franchise. PK buried them. They've been not good in playoffs for a very long time, so to see them even make it to the finals
Yeah,
was a really big step for that organization. So congrats to them. And like you said, Nick Rose, I think, proved once again, not that I think Hill was bad by any means. He had a great series, but I think Nick Rose once again proved
yeah.
what it means to have an
Especially in
elite
game one.
goalie. Huh?
Especially in game one, and then
Yep.
I guess in both second
Yes.
halves
Yeah.
of this
Yep.
series.
And that's what I was talking about with um, Brett Dobson earlier when I was talking about Georgia, and like we've seen Matt Vince do the same thing
Right.
where it comes to that second half and he's like, "You're done scoring. Like it's over. Like I'm putting my foot down. No more goals are getting past me." And Nick Rose did the exact same thing. And to me, that's the elite style goalie, and not easy to find, not easy to get, but that's what makes an elite goalie elite. When it comes to those massive moments, they have the ability to turn it up to a whole nother level and just end it. Just end the game on their terms and say, like, listen, I don't care what you do to me. I don't care how many shots you throw, where you're throwing them from. You're not scoring into me. And that's what I was missing from Brett Dobson, is that he just didn't seem to have that extra gear. I'm not saying he can't get it. I'm saying he'll find it. But that was what you saw with Nick Rose. And once again, it just proves what an elite goalie means to a team. And I don't know how many years in a row it is now that an elite goalie has won the finals. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
You got what? Vince, you got Rose, you got Ward. Don't know.
CDB.
CDB.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since
Yeah.
not having an elite goalie has won the final. But congratulations, Toronto. Like you said, I was going to ask you if you think that they can, not if you think they can, if they would be a dynasty. And I think for me personally, I'll answer first, I guess. The only thing that I think would be difficult is I think it's going to be difficult for anyone at this point because all the teams have caught up and are really good across all the NLL. I think a lot of teams are very, very competitive, and you got your Vancouvers, your Rushes, your Colorado. Like everyone seems like they're on a pretty level playing field at this point. Where when Buffalo was doing what they were doing, I feel like they were ahead of everybody, and I think now not only have other teams caught up, I feel like the whole league as a whole is pretty close to a level playing. Yes, there's still top teams and bottom teams, but I think it's going to be very hard for any team to win, we'll say a three-peat, just based on the level of competition throughout the NLL. But what are your thoughts? Do you think, not again, I think we both agree they can be with all their rookies and Nick Rose and everything they have set up, but do you think they will truly be the start of a dynasty?
So I'm going to ask you the question after I
Okay,
answer it for me is what to you is the definition of a dynasty? And to me,
that's fair.
it's two championships in 3 years. Now it could be you get to, and you have to be in the finals in all three of those years,
Yes.
at
Yep.
least in the playoffs, I should say. So if you want to say this is their start of their dynasty, next year they either have to win it or get to the playoffs, preferably to the finals, and then the following year, if they don't win it the year before, they have like it needs you need two championships in a 3 year period, and that one that you don't do it, it's not like you can just disappear. So do I think they can become a dynasty? Yes, because Kurst is another level of a human being. That goal that he scored on his offhand, I mean, that's just one of many that he scored this year. Sam English is a legit weapon. Like, yes, he got left out of Rookie of the Year category, but again, it goes back to who are you going to take out of that situation? It's not just you got left off, okay, but who comes out? Like that's what I hate about people that just say, "Oh, you got left out." Okay, but if he got left out, who are you removing him for? That's not discrediting anything he did. Hugh Kelleher, like everywhere he goes, he wins. Like it's that simple, and he is underappreciated and under talked about on this team just because of how good
Yep.
the rest of the rookies are. And then Owen Hiltz, like going into the season, I said like it's not even a bold take anymore for Owen Hiltz to be considered the favorite for the Rookie of the Year, and he's just like he got overshadowed. He had a very good rookie year, but he got
Yes.
overshadowed because of how good CJ Kirst was, not just on the ball but off the ball stuff. How good Sam English is, like it's not just how good this rookie class was, but it's how deep Toronto has with this, with Ty English coming in next year's draft pick and the following year's draft pick as well. Like they're loaded with talent. The roster is there. Like the only big question mark is can Nick Rose, who yes, he's up there in age, but and don't hear this. This is not a shot at him, but there's only one Mad Vince. Like, there's only one Mad Vince that can play as long as he has, and Nick Rose is up there in age. I didn't see him lose a step, and his style is a bit different than Matt Vince's style. How long can Nick Rose's
Yep.
continue? Because that's another situation. I don't think Holochuk is the answer behind them. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I haven't seen enough of him. But the bits and pieces that I saw this year, he had glimpses of it, but I don't think it was anything to write home that that's your next heir apparent to Nick Rose. So I think that they can be. Am I betting them that they do? I would lean no, but I still think that they're going to be a team that is considered a favorite for years to come because of how good they are. It's hard, and you kind of summed it up perfectly. Because of how good the rest of the league is, it's hard for me, and I would pick this for Buffalo like the last 5 years we did this as well, and I think I picked them to be a favorite more than once. It's hard to repeat. It's even harder to three-peat. So I would lean no just because of the history of it, of how hard it is to repeat. But that does not mean that I do not think that they're going to be involved in finals contention for the next 5-10 years, because I believe that Toronto has finally figured out the pattern. I'm going to have to accept the fact that Matt Sawyer now has a championship. But I think that they can become a dynasty, but I would not bet for it. So I guess to you also, do you believe it? And what is your definition of a dynasty?
For the same reason that I said earlier, and you just said, I don't think they will, only because I think the playing field across the NLL is incredible.
Yeah.
I do think, though, it'll be interesting to see next year who we have as our top four teams moving into the season, but I have to imagine they're probably going to be a top four team as long as Nick Rose is back there, or at least somewhere in that range. It is really raining outside right now.
I know, right?
Really coming down. And then what makes the dynasties interesting? Because I feel like Buffalo going to four straight, even when they won back to back, I feel like there was still talks of like, oh, is that a dynasty? Is it not a dynasty? Then they won three, and okay, then now it's official. Like, like, and I guess that's a whole separate conversation. Is it, will Buffalo's dynasty ever be topped going to five straight finals and winning three straight? Like that's going to be a mountain that's really hard to climb for any other team.
And just for more information for you, Billy Hostrauser is a UFA. Mark Matthews is a UFA. That's about it, man. Like, everybody else is pretty much locked in. Josh Jackson's an RFA. Steve Orleman's an RFA. Robert Hudson's an RFA. Like, they did this without, Phil Mazuka, who was out majority of the season. T.D. Erlin didn't play the entire year. Like, I know Tom Schreiber's future is still in jeopardy. Justin Martin didn't play. Like, Robert Hudson didn't play. Like, and like, there's so many pieces that weren't a part of this championship that are going to be added back to it next year, and they're not
talking
really
about a team
like,
that's got no room.
Yeah. They're joining that party. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I like your 2 out of 3. To me, the one they missed though, it's not just making playoffs. I feel like, I mean, I'd love to see 3 championships in a row and you don't win one of them. But at least get out of that first round. I feel like if you're a one and done in your one-off year, you'd be like, all right, well, that's not all that impressive. But I do think 2 in 3 years is really hard to do and still really impressive. So I feel like, but like dynasty to me is also longevity. Like, is 3 years long enough to consider it a dynasty, or does it have to be like Buffalo?
That's why I say, like, you got to win 2 in that period. Like, if you want to look at a further dynasty, if it's 5 years, you got to be to the finals 3 times and win 3 of them, even if they're not concurrent. I think you'd have to win at least 2 back to back. So
I think that to me is more of a dynasty where it's like, I think closer to 5 years. I think 3's quick. Like, I don't know.
I guess it all like, do you win in those 3 years though? Like,
right. Like what the Nighthawks did when they three-peated. Like, is that, I would feel like that would be a dynasty because they did something that's almost never been done before. I mean, it was only ever done by Buffalo. So I feel like if you win 3 in 3 years, I think that would be considered a dynasty because that's extremely difficult to do. 2 in 3 years, I feel like I'd want to see a longer time frame then if you lose one of those years. I do like 5 years as just a general time frame, and like you said, winning 3, but you can do it anytime in that time. But no, I don't think they will be, just because, not that they can't do it, they absolutely can, but the league is, it's a nightmare when when your top seeds and the reigning 3P champions are all out in the first round. You know where the league currently sits, and all those teams are going to be coming back real angry next season.
And that's another part of, maybe we would have to revisit this, what a dynasty is and their chances of it, depending on what they do to the playoff scenario next year. Because maybe, as much as I don't want them to have sour grapes, I feel like a bunch of these top teams are going to have sour grapes,
Which
saying,
is
"Well,
just,
one and
it's
done,
so
even though you didn't
annoying.
win at home, you should have won at home."
Just annoying.
But congratulations to the Toronto Rock,
Yes.
all their fans, the organization. Like, they deserved it. Everybody talking about, like, we're the best 2 teams in the finals. They were the best 2 teams at that time, and you got to get hot when you get hot, and they got hot when they did, and they're not going away. Toronto. If you're listening to this for us to bash Toronto, you haven't been listening for the last 5 years. Like, we appreciate good lacrosse, and they played really good lacrosse all the way to the end. It's just a fantastic. The only other thing I'll point out, and I normally don't talk about the losers in this situation, but Halifax's crowd was phenomenal. Like, this entire playoffs, but especially in that finals, Halifax, and we saw Mackie Jenner tweet it out, Halifax is a lacrosse city. Like, as much as Rochester might have gotten the sour end of that by having Halifax take the franchise and move it to Halifax, might have come out as a win there because of what they're doing up in Halifax. Like, it might be tough to get to, but man, Halifax is a lacrosse city. What they're building out there is phenomenal. I think I tweeted it out or put it in Discord. I need to get to a Halifax game when Buffalo is up there to cover that game, because I want to experience that crowd. But we'll move on here because we're almost at an hour. As we're not talking about, obviously, the Sabres BSC nominees are going to be pushed a week. That means Bandits are going to be pushed 2 weeks. So we'll talk more about the Bandits in a couple weeks. And I know we've kind of went a little bit. Maybe we'll find a topic next week. But we're rounding out our season coverage of the Buffalo Bandits, mostly because, we're in off-season mode, but also because the entire season's over. So overall, not a Bandits season review, but our coverage of the Buffalo Bandits review. We covered all 9 home games. We went to 3 different road games, including Oshawa, Toronto, and Rochester. I got the privilege, once again, 2 years in a row, going on with the great and the Tom Borelli Award winner, John Girdler. We had 22 total interviews, so mind you, I'm just going to give them all a shout out because they didn't have to come on the show, but they did. We started the season preview with Pat Gregoire. We had the Bandits preview with Steve Bermel. We had Georgia's Nick Kloss. We had Halifax's Mackie Jenner. Calgary's Amran Wahindi. We had Vegas's Jake Elliott. Rochester's Brendan McDaniels. Then Ottawa's Andrew Willemick. Then Colorado's Brandon Hooten. Philly, we had Kyle Bennett. I know I always have to do names in a row, and I'm throwing out 22 of them in a row here. Halifax's Pete Talladay. We had Vancouver's Brad Chandler back on. Saskatchewan's John Frazier. Toronto, Ashley Docking. Colorado, once again, Jamie Shuchuk. San Diego, Cooper Perkins came back on. He was our first interview last year. Saskatchewan's Cody Jansen, who is now the owner of a hockey club overseas. Vancouver's Tino Farah. Rochester's Chamberlain Bauder. And then Oshawa's Dan Malta. And then in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, Teddy Jenner back on for the first time in a while. Again, our fault. And then round 2, Dawson Nielsen. So shout out and thank you to all 22 of those guests. Check your DMs. I'll probably be hitting you back up next year. For totals, Phil, I covered at home Halifax, Ottawa, Saskatchewan, and Rochester games. I went on the road to Rochester, Toronto, and Oshawa. So thank you to those 3 cities for allowing me there. And again, check your DMs. I'll probably be back next year if Buffalo's in that town. You had Georgia, Vegas, Philly, Colorado, and Vancouver at home. So in total, of the 18 games, the only 6 games we were not in attendance to cover were in Calgary, in Colorado, in Halifax, in Vancouver, in San Diego, and in Saskatchewan. The only reason is because they're so stinking far away and you would need to take a plane ride to get there. So if anybody wants to pay us to go out there, we will. It's just we're not forking over hundreds of dollars to do it. If the game is close enough to drive to, we'll get there. But again, thank you to everybody I guess, are there any highs or lows of this season coverage for you?
I did do the Zach Belcher interview, which was a lot of fun. I was able to do 3 stars for one of the games, which was a lot of fun. Asked Johnny Tavares a question finally, got that off my back and press coverage, so that was nice. Um, no, I was gonna say the debacle we had with the the press box uh halftime, if the drinks were going to be open after the first
Oh, yep,
quarter or
yeah.
not, was that was a good time all season long. If we were going to be able to get halftime pop or iced tea or anything, or if it was going to be closed, it was a real waiting game. And I played it poorly. I'll say that. I don't think I got it. I don't think I guessed correctly once with all that, but no, it was a lot of fun. I was able to once again will a player to Buffalo and Mitch
You
DeSnew,
did.
got him back, and Joey Rez. We were yelling about that since pretty much game one as well. So I mean, I credit a lot of our podcast for getting those two guys in a Bandits uniform. We did most of the legwork on that. The lows, obviously, you saw potentially, we don't know anything officially yet, but likely you saw the ends of careers and pretty legendary ones for Buffalo. So I know you mentioned it, and I didn't want to believe it at the time that the last home game they had during the season, like, take it in, it could be the last time you see some of these guys at
It
home, would have
wasn't.
been.
I'll give Chamberlain Potter the credit for that one. He was the one that mentioned it when I asked him. I was like, "What headline would you put?" And he goes, "Mad Vince's final game at Buffalo in Bannerland." And he might have been right.
Yeah, and at the time I was like, Buffalo's on a roll. There's no way they're gonna lose round one. But we also picked Georgia as the scariest matchup, and away being even scarier, and nailed that one. We also, I meant to mention this about the finals. We said Halifax in 3, which meant go and bet on Toronto in 2.
We did
And
say
if
that.
you
Yep.
listen to our advice of
Won a
doing the
bunch of money.
exact opposite of what we were thinking, you would have made some money. So, we did say bet on Toronto in 2, and you would have done it. But
Listen to
yeah,
us by not listening to us.
exactly. Whatever we say, do the
Do the
opposite,
opposite.
bet on that. You're going to do great. I don't, who ended up winning? I don't even remember who ended up winning our game. Did I win this season?
Oh yeah, yeah, you won.
Yeah. So that's another
I'll pull it
highlight
up
for
really
me.
quick.
Guessing the winners of every game, got that right
Yeah,
this
you
year.
went
So
83 and 43.
all
I
right.
went 80 and 46, and the people's picks rounded out by 79 and 47. So yeah, I squeaked out a victory in the final week.
The people got to be better, but that's a pretty good record. 83 and 43.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
very
bad.
good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, you also won.
Yes,
Who you
yes, I'm
got?
wearing the hat. Yep. What was it? Weekly picks.
Yeah,
Cool bet. Won a weekly prize pick. That was very exciting. And it was I think an 8-game week that
yeah, it
week.
was a big one.
So it was a big one to pick. I think I got them all right, or maybe missed one, but got the tiebreaker. So yeah, pretty fun year
I would have been right
overall.
there with you, and we would have split the tiebreaker and gone to the wheel if I didn't change my pick at the last minute.
Yeah, we had the exact same goal differential
Yep.
for the last game, but you switched your pick at the last minute
Yep, I
and
was
snuck
wrong.
it out.
Yep. But yeah, I don't think I have any lows. Like this was a year where we saw a bunch of expansion with our coverage by the amount of games we were at covering for the Buffalo Bandits, the amount of interviews, the amount of content that we put out there. Like you put out the articles every single week. We didn't miss one of those. We didn't miss a single interview. Like
Hit article
I think this was
100.
and we kind of said it in like the fifth anniversary show. I think this was the most professional season that we've had based on the coverage we provided. I wouldn't say professional like some of the stuff we butcher and talk about on the show, but like as far as like the most professional like amount of content we provide, I don't think there's very many, if anybody, that provides the amount of coverage that we do, considering the articles and the interviews and the amount of shows that we put out. Again, pat on our own back here, but I I will say that I don't have any negatives. Just it was a different season for us based on the struggles for the Buffalo Bandits and the you losing the amount of players that they did in the offseason. What are they going to turn into here? And the whole CBA discussions in the offseason before the season even began. So it was. I don't feel like I have too many highs, but I don't have too many lows. I think the highs are being able to get all those interviews out and on time, and didn't have any missed weeks. Like I think they faced what, 5 teams twice. Yeah, we being able to find a second person for each show, like as great as the lacrosse community is out there, there's not a ton of people that cover it in depth. So being able to find somebody that is willing to come on the show and is as great as they were to come on the show, I think that's, to me, I guess that's my biggest positive, is being able to get as many people on the show that were willing to. And I'm not even taking that credit because they were willing to do it, but being able to get an interview for the preseason, the Bandit season, and so on and so forth. So hopefully we can continue that next year as well. Lows, like I mentioned, not really any lows. It was just a different type of season. Yes, seeing the careers end for a few players kind of stinks. And as much as that does stink, it's kind of allowing it, when you put on a content creator and like hat and the unbiased hat for the Buffalo Bandits, it's going to be a very interesting and fun off season, if you want to call that, for us, because we don't know what the future holds for this team.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to the future while also appreciating what we were. And that's kind of what we say, like the office quote, and we kind of always say it all the time: I wish I knew you were in the good old days before they passed. We tried to warn you for 5 years, guys. If you didn't listen to us, that ain't our fault. Remember, Senate's kind of listen to us, but do the opposite. That's the one time where you do what we tell you to do. But yeah, I think just thank you to all the guests that came on the show. Thank you to, and it kind of sounds like the 5th anniversary show again, but thank you to all 22, or I guess 23, including Zach Belter, coming on the show and providing the content that you guys all did for us and the listeners in the lacrosse community. Because again, we can't do what we do without those people willing to come on the show and give us their knowledge of the opposing team, because that doesn't just help the listener, that helps us understand the opponent coming in, so we can also provide better content for the listeners as well. So 5th year in the books. We're going into our 6th off season now, if I'm doing the math correctly, of covering this team. And we're not going anywhere. We're just going to keep pumping this out. But just a brief of our own coverage to pat ourselves on the back, because we don't do that very often, because we're not normally right on most things that we talk about on the show. But again, listen to us and do the opposite. But Phil, is there anything else before we shut down our first off-season show of the week and go make sure none of our stuff blew away in this storm?
Yeah, I do think you briefly mentioned it, but again, we also can't do this without listeners, and
yeah.
I guess we wouldn't be doing this without listeners. If no one listened, we wouldn't be here, and at the same time...
Thank you for not pulling a Pat there by calling them fans. I hate that
term. And if people didn't listen, maybe PK wouldn't be able to get the poll that he has for the episodes and interviews and getting people on, because if you're a no-name podcast, I mean, not saying they're going to be mean about it, but they might not be as willing. Like, who the heck are you?
They're never mean. They just don't recognize things.
And we can't do any of that without listeners. So thank you to everyone who stuck with us on a very rocky season for the Buffalo Bandits. Had its highs, had its lows, ended real low. But like you said, the content will be very interesting in the off season, and for once, the Bandits may be headed into a new season without sky-high expectations. So we'll see what they do with that.
I remember they were 4-6 at one point and a goal away from tearing it all down. And then I went into my whole, you don't have to beat Toronto or Saskatchewan this week. You only have to beat Toronto. And I went into my whole professor cap there trying to figure out, okay, this is the number. They don't need 10. They actually need 9. And then in the end, they only needed 8. But kept the expectations where they were.
Maybe they should have gotten only 8. It would have been a better road.
Maybe, yeah, they would have been on the lower terms and they might have won. But that concludes this one. On the next episode, guaranteed, we will have the BSC award nominees for the Buffalo Sabres. We will talk about anything else that happens with the Buffalo Sabres, with the Bills, or with the Bandits. We'll come up with a Bandits topic for next show, I promise. And then stay tuned. It's probably going to be out this week. I should have plugged it earlier. Make sure you stay tuned for our fan vote for the Buffalo Bandits. It's going to be out again. It's up to you all, the listeners and the fans of the Buffalo Bandits, to pick the fan favorite Buffalo Bandit of this year. We do it every year. It will be announced in our award show that will be in 4 weeks. So stay tuned. We'll put that out. But again, next week, BSC award nominees for the Buffalo Sabres for the 5th annual show, and some topic for the Buffalo Bandits, and then mixture of anything else that we have, because it's the off season. We're wild and crazy. So stay tuned with us, and we'll have some fun as long as you stick around with us. So we will conclude this one as long as I find an outro button, because why not? It's the off season. We'll struggle. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Go. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Stay tuned all off season. We're not going away. You should neither. Till next time. Bye-bye.